Have you ever wondered how a business really makes its decisions? I mean, when you're the one in charge, how do you actually figure out what to do? Well, it might seem complicated, but today we're going to see how it all boils down to some surprisingly simple math. Math that guides everything from hiring one person to shaping the entire market.
So, let's put you in the driver's seat. Picture this, you've just started your own business. Things are going well, but now the big questions start rolling in. Your main goal, of course, is to make as much profit as possible. But how? Do you hire 10 people or 20? Do you make 1,000 widgets a month or 10,000? There's actually a clear, logical answer to these questions, and we're going to figure it out together.
Here's our game plan. First, we'll zero in on the core question of maximizing profit. Then we'll uncover the golden rule for hiring someone new. After that, we'll get our hands dirty with some actual numbers. Then we'll see how that same exact logic connects workers to costs, which will let us actually reveal the famous supply curve. And of course, we'll wrap it up with the big takeaway.
All right, let's dive into section 1. The big question is pretty straightforward. How does a business owner make choices to squeeze out the most profit? For today, we're thinking about the short run. That just means we're not making huge changes like building a brand new factory. It's all about making the absolute smartest calls with what you have, right here, right now.
So, where do you even begin? Well, for most companies, the first big decision is always about people. Should you hire another person? To answer that, you can't just go with your gut. You need a solid, economic rule that tells you exactly when adding one more employee is actually going to make you money.
So the first piece of this puzzle is a concept called the marginal product of labor, or MPL. Now don't let the fancy name fool you. It's just asking a very simple question. If I hire one more person, how many more things will my company actually make? That's it. It's the extra stuff you get from that one new hire.
Okay, so making more stuff is nice, but businesses run on money, right? So we need to take that extra output, the MPL, and translate it into cold, hard cash. And that's where the value of the marginal product of labor, or VMPL, comes in. It asks, what's the actual dollar value of the stuff that new employee just made?
And the formula? It's beautifully simple. You just take the price of your product, we'll call it P, and multiply it by that new worker's output, their MPL. The number you get is the extra revenue that one person brings in. And this number, this is everything. It's the benefit in our cost-benefit analysis of hiring someone.
All right, theory's great, but let's see how this plays out in the real world. We're going to grab some data from our source material and walk through a couple of scenarios to see exactly how a business would use these ideas to make a decision.
Okay, take a look at this data. This table basically shows us how much extra stuff each new worker adds. For our example, let's just zoom in on this one key row here. See that? When we hire the 5th worker, their specific contribution, their MPL, is exactly 100 units. Now, remember that number, 100. It's about to be very, very important.
Okay, scenario 1. Let's say the price of our product is 20, and the going wage for a worker is 2,000. Now, the rule is simple. You should keep hiring as long as the value a worker brings in, their VMPL, is at least as much as their wage. So we just plug in the numbers. 20 times their MPL has to be greater than or equal to 2,000. A little quick math tells us we should hire anyone whose MPL is 100 or more. And if we look back at our table, who is that? Worker number 5. So that's our decision. We hire 5 workers.
So what's the end result? Well, by following our rule and hiring exactly 5 people, the business makes a total of 1,580 units. And after you pay all the salaries and account for all the costs, the maximum possible profit you can make is 21,600. If you had hired a 6th worker, their productivity would have been lower and you actually would have lost money on them. See? The math gives us the perfect answer.
Now let's try a different angle with scenario 2. Imagine wages suddenly jump up to 6,000, but we've decided we definitely still want to keep our 5 workers. What's the minimum price we'd have to sell our product for to make that decision worthwhile? We use the exact same rule, but this time we're solving for P, the price. Price times our 5th worker's MPL of 100 has to be at least 6,000. Well, that means the price has to be 60 or more.
And just look what happens to the profit if the market price is in fact 60. Wow, the bottom line absolutely explodes. Under these new conditions, the maximum profit jumps all the way to 64,800. This really drives home how much a business's decisions depend on the prices out there in the wider market.
So, let's just put it all side by side for a second. This makes it crystal clear, right? The things you can't control, what you sell your product for, and what you have to pay your people, those are the inputs. And they directly drive your internal decisions, which ultimately sets your maximum possible profit.
So we've totally nailed the hiring decision. But hiring people isn't the end goal, is it? It's just a means to an end. The real goal is producing things. So now we're going to shift our focus just a little bit, from the cost of a worker to the cost of a single item that we produce.
Now check this out. These are the 2 golden rules of making a profit. We already know the hiring rule on the left, but look at the one on the right, the production rule. It says a business should only make another item if the price is at least as high as the marginal cost of making it. But here's the really cool part. These are actually the same rule, just looked at from 2 different directions.
So what is this marginal cost, or MC? Well, it's basically the flip side of marginal product. Instead of asking, what does a new worker give us, marginal cost asks, what does it cost us to produce just one more item? That's it. What's the cost of that single next unit off the assembly line?
And here it is. This is the crucial link that connects everything we've talked about. Picture a tiny kitchen. The first chef you hire, super productive. The second one helps a lot too. But by the time you cram the 10th chef in there, they're just bumping elbows and getting in each other's way. Their individual productivity, their MPL, goes down. And if you're paying that 10th chef the same salary, but they're making fewer meals, what does that mean? It means your labor cost per meal just went up. And there's the link. As worker productivity falls, the marginal cost of producing one more unit has to rise.
Okay, this connection, this inverse relationship between how productive your workers are and how much it costs to make the next thing, this is the key. It's the key that unlocks one of the biggest, most fundamental ideas in all of economics. We are about to see where the market supply curve actually comes from.
This table right here shows us a company's marginal cost schedule. And just look at what's happening. As the quantity they produce goes up, from 140 to 160 units, the marginal cost of making each one also goes up, from 14 to 18. This is that idea we just talked about, but with real numbers. Making more eventually gets more expensive to do, 1 unit at a time.
So let me ask you this. If it cost you $18 to make the 160th widget, would you bother making it if you could only sell it for 17? No way, you'd lose money on it. You'd only make that widget if the market price was 18 or higher. And that right there is the absolute heart of the production decision. You only produce if the price is bigger than or equal to the marginal cost.
And that leads us to the big aha moment. Think about it. The marginal cost tells you the minimum price a producer is willing to accept to make one more item. So a chart showing all of those costs is also a chart of how much they're willing to supply at any given price. In other words, a producer's supply curve is its marginal cost curve. They're the same thing.
So, let's zoom out and put a bow on this. We started with a really simple question about whether to hire somebody, and from that single question, we ended up deriving the entire supply curve for a company. What that shows us is that these huge complex market forces are really just built from millions and millions of tiny, logical, individual decisions.
You see, the logic we've walked through, this constant balancing act of marginal benefits versus marginal costs, it isn't just for some hypothetical business in an explainer. This is happening inside every business, all around you all the time. So the final question I'll leave you with is this. What happens when you add up all of these millions of individual decisions? You get the market. Thanks for joining us.